Good evening. Welcome out to Harvest Baptist Church. We're going to get started this evening on time, so we're going to turn to 375. 375 in your hymnals, blue hymnals in front of you. Saved by the blood of the crucified one. Let's stand and sing it out excitingly together. I'm saved by what Christ has done for me. 375. Saved by the blood of the crucified one, now ransomed from sin and a new work begun. Sing praise to the Father and praise to the Son. Saved by the blood of the crucified one. Saved, saved. My sins are all pardoned, my guilt is all gone. Saved, saved. I'm saved by the blood of the crucified one. 375, if you just came in, we'll sing that second stanza. Saved by the blood of the crucified one, the angels rejoicing because it is done. A child of the Father, joint heir with the Son. Saved by the blood of the crucified one. Saved, saved. My sins are all pardoned, my guilt is all gone. Saved, saved. I'm saved by the blood of the crucified one. Saved by the blood of the crucified one. All hail to the Father, all hail to the Son, all hail to the Spirit, the great three in one. Saved by the blood of the crucified one. Saved, saved. My sins are all pardoned, my guilt is all gone. Saved, saved. I'm saved by the blood of the crucified one. Pastor Marshall.
Amen. It's good to see you all out tonight for the very special evening service as we get to hear testimonies from the youth mission team as they came back from San Francisco. It's good to have them back. I'm going to ask Micah Brighton if you could please pray for us as we open our service tonight. Thank you.
Heavenly Father, thank you for letting us come out here tonight and just hear what the mission trip team has done. And thank you for letting them go over there and have that opportunity and bringing them back safely. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Be seated. Slightly different schedule tonight. I have a couple things here. I have two cards to give out. We give out cards to write to our missionaries, and I think we did this a few weeks ago, and I had two names that I did not have the right addresses on. So now we have those corrected, and they're stamped. So I need somebody who's willing to write to the Dr. Walter Loescher, the Loeschers right here. Who would like to do that? Skip, you want to write to them? And then Ellen Doyle, who would like to write to Ellen. Could you give that to Lori if you don't mind? Thank you, Tim, for jumping up. Got it. A few announcements for you this evening. I hope you've enjoyed seeing the progress week by week as the building continues to go up. The same rule continues. Please don't go out there unless you have permission. And please keep your children away from the construction site. We won't want any dangerous things to happen. We're prayed this morning for Sid Main. I saw John Hill's here somewhere. John's here with us today. We prayed for his father-in-law, Sid, and he's going to have surgery tomorrow. That's the plan. So pray for Mr. Main. As I prayed this morning, I thought the surgery was today, but that has been postponed till tomorrow. So pray for Mr. Main as they do that surgery. His hip, he broke his hip falling yesterday. So he's in some pain, but he seemed pretty comfortable as I talked to him this afternoon. So pray for him. And some really good news to report to you, and that is that Nora Claire Pascal was born. Y'all have met Josh and Sarah Pascal. They're relatively new here at Harvest, but it's so good to have them. And they're welcoming baby Nora, 20.5 inches long, 8 pounds, 5 ounces. So that is exciting news to offer or to give you all about that. Also wanted to let you know that be praying for Christine. She's going to be moving to Virginia. We prayed for her this morning. She's going to be taking a new job in the Woodstock, Virginia area. She'll be serving at a military school, doing some work there, and very excited for her. And she's very excited about this opportunity she has to continue her passion for discipling people and going wherever she goes. So we're thankful for her. We prayed, continue to keep her in your prayer. She'll be here on Wednesday night, but then she'll be heading up very soon and moving to Virginia. Those of you in the Blanton Yes Shepherding group tonight, you have an ice cream social. And if you're in the intro class or you're a guest, you're welcome to join us as well and join us for the ice cream social tonight. That's immediately following the evening service. I think that's all the announcements I have. Drew, is that right? Is that it? All right.
I haven't been here, so I don't know.
Good to have you back.
Yeah. Well, it has been we had a great trip, I tell you, and hopefully you'll hear all about that tonight, and it's great to be home. But thank you all for being here, and hopefully I know this service will be a blessing to you. In just a moment, I'll have the team come up, and we're going to sing a song for you. One of the songs that we sang at the church out in California, just so you know, we went out to Cornerstone Baptist Church in Martinez, California. It's about 40 minutes outside of San Francisco, and we took 10 of us out there, and most of us are here tonight, and so we're very thankful all of us are very thankful for the opportunity to have gone. Pastor Danny Schmidt and his wife Jenny are out there, and he's a friend of mine and a man I've known for several years, and we had a great opportunity to go out there. So we're going to have the team come, and we're going to sing one of the songs that we sang at the Sunday service for you, and then we'll kind of go from there. Thank you, team. And what we're going to do here, in a moment, we're going to hear testimonies from everybody, but I just want to start with kind of a highlights reel, if you will. And let me see here, what do I need to do? Make that go away. Sorry about that. It's kind of a highlights reel, and just to give a bird's eye view of everything that we did. It would not be possible for me to go through every single day and exactly the layout of every day and what we did, but I do want to give you a good idea of kind of the highlights of what we did and what we accomplished. The Lord was very good in giving us this trip. In fact, it's something I talked about with Pastor Danny while we were there. We actually had a trip lined up for this summer back in 2016. I had actually planned out a trip for this summer for 2018, but it actually ended up falling through, and the Lord was in that. And the Lord was with every aspect of this trip, and I don't want to take away too much from what the team, I'm sure, is going to say, but But I just want to say that the Lord has been very good in the planning of this trip, and things that even things that were frustrating to me ended up being the right thing, and ended up being the way that the Lord had perfectly orchestrated it. And it just really was a huge blessing to be able to take this team and to go. Mission trips are always a blessing. Some are better than others, though, and this one was a really good one. I just have to say that. So this is the picture of us before we left for the airport. This is the obligatory 4 a.m. picture of everyone looking extremely happy and excited, and I think we all look pretty good for 4:15 in the morning, whatever it was. When we arrived, of course, the first place we went is to In-N-Out Burger, and I'm sure many of you have been there, and they were kind enough to help allow us to stop there on the way home. So we got what really is a terrible picture, but we had to get the In-N-Out in the picture. So we're all there, and we enjoyed a few burgers. Some ate a few more than others. Some took some home, actually, to the house and ate them for 3 or 4 days afterwards, which was great. Here's Pastor Danny and his wife Jen. Excursion things that we did in just a moment, but they were a great blessing to us, and they are ministering and serving in the trenches in a small church out in a small community. It's not really a small community. It's really a suburb of the Oakland, San Francisco, the whole Bay Area. It's a great little town. It really is. I wish all of you could go and see it. I'm sure you'll hear some of that. But one of the primary things that we wanted to do while we were there, one of the stated goals, and right from the outset, was that not only did we want to be a blessing to the church and to the church individually and the people and the building, and I'll talk about some of the projects that we did in a moment, but we also wanted to be a blessing to the Schmitz, and I think we did that. Here's a picture of their son, Braden, and Murph, and we really got a great picture of love in action this past week. Murph was kind of the granddad of the trip with their 2 kids, and really kind of took them under their wing, and you'll see that some. They live in a beautiful community in Martinez. This is actually within walking distance. This picture was taken right behind their house, within walking distance, and you see we brought the kids with us a lot. They kind of tagged along, and again, we really wanted to be a blessing to them. And here's another picture. Again, this is right. They live in just an unbelievable place. It's just so beautiful. But there's a picture of Marina and Romy and the 2 kids there, and there's Thomas who's coloring with Braden. And this is actually right when we left. They're heading down to the playground for the very last time, and they just really enjoyed the kids really enjoyed getting to know us, and we enjoyed getting to know them. Again, they live in a beautiful, I took this one morning while we were doing our devotions, and we were able to sit out there and read our Bibles and pray, and this is this is literally right behind their house. It's just a beautiful area. You can actually see Mount Diablo, which I'll talk about in just a minute, but it's a mountain very close by there, only about 30-40 minutes away, and you can see it right from their backyard. It's just beautiful. The sleeping arrangements were pretty good. They weren't too bad. They didn't actually all sleep there on the floor, but I had to throw that. I'm sorry, guys. Here's another picture of the group. This is actually right before we left as well. And so while we were there, of course, again, we wanted to be a blessing to the Schmitz, but we also wanted to be a blessing to the church. And I think that was accomplished. We did a number of projects around the church. This is one of the very first things we did, was just some general cleanup and things. But the big project was, and it's not, you can't really see everything, it's impossible, but every wall that you see there basically had to come down. They had recently redone the bathrooms at the church, and so every bathroom, or excuse me, every wall there that was the old bathrooms. And so these old ceramic tiles, this very heavy material, and actually they had bid this project out for someone to come in and actually do the demo work and have a professional team come in, and the cost for that project was $6,000. And we were actually able to do that this past week while we were there. So the Lord was very good in that. And so we worked a lot on that. That was, I would say, it was not the only project, but I would say it was the one that took the most time. And it was a lot of work, a lot of shoveling, a lot of sledgehammering. There's Murph swinging the sledgehammer, and here's some of the results. of just working through this stuff, the guys shoveling, and just buckets and buckets of ceramic tile just coming out of this bathroom. We worked on Saturday pretty much all day doing that, and then hauling it to the dump, and then we worked again on Tuesday pretty much all day wrapping it up. And we did other work, of course, in between. Here's a picture of the guys at the dump. I mean, literally going to the dump and taking and shoveling this stuff. We put it in the pickup truck, and then we would take it off and shovel it off at the dump there. And I mean, it's old stuff, and so we had to wear gas masks. But here's the finished product, and I know it's not a great picture, but that is that where you see the lines on the ground there. Those were walls there, and that is now opened up, and eventually this is actually going to be their nursery. They're gonna drywall the walls there, and they're gonna finish it up. But it was a great blessing to be able to do that. But that was only one of several projects. I kind of listed them out here. The bathroom demolition again was the one that took the most time. But another great blessing that we something that we were able to do there while we were there is they had a projector that worked and works very well, but it was not installed. It was not hanging. It was not usable because, number one, they didn't have a good screen, and number two, they didn't have anybody to hang it. And so one of the things that we were able to do while we were there is actually Max and Murph and a couple of the other guys, they were able to wire and connect and everything and get this projector working. And you'll see it in some. We were actually able to use it for our vacation Bible school while we were there. And that was just so cool to me that here they didn't have that last week, but yet now they can do different songs and things off of that projector now. And I was just so thrilled. And here's the guys doing some of the wiring for that. There's Max with his, I guess that's like a mad scientist kind of look there. But he's doing some of that. Actually, that was staged, I must confess. That was a staged picture because I realized I hadn't gotten a picture of him doing that. But he did the wiring for this thing, okay? That was for the actual projector that came out of the ceiling, and it was an electronic thing that you press a button in the back of the auditorium, it comes down like we have here, but he was actually doing the wiring for that. So it's very cool. Here's a picture, and I apologize, Sebastian, that you happen to be in this picture. I was trying to get a picture of the finished product. This doorway was not there when we were there. It was a very small doorway, and Thomas actually did almost all of the work for this, and taking the door frame down and sawzawing all the way up to the ceiling in the wall and cutting a clean line for them because they actually need to, if you can see right here on the left screen, they're putting the box, some kind of electronic box, and it needed to go right there where there was a wall. And so we were able to do that while we were there. There was a stairwell painting project that was very involved because the stairwell was very high, and so we had to kind of do some be creative in how we got to it, and a couple of the girls and Tim worked on that a lot over the span of a couple days and putting 2 coats on that, and that was a great blessing to them. The sound system, they don't really have anybody at this church that's very well equipped to handle the sound system. Talk about this in a second, but to handle the sound system. And so while we were there, our guys, Max and a couple of the other guys, Thomas and Sebastian, were able to kind of help and walk them through different things that they can do. And really, in a lot of ways, they are equipped there. They just didn't know how to use it. And so now they do. And so they were able to help in a great way with that. We were able to move some things out of the basement, move some things into the basement, do some things that you general cleanup and things that you just need a lot of people to do. And so we really were able to do a lot while we were there. We also served in the service on Sunday, of course, and so the song that we just sang, we sang 2 songs in that service, and everybody participated. Everybody had a main part in the service, whether it was preaching or giving a testimony. The girls gave testimonies, and so we pretty much had the whole service while we were there. It was a great blessing, and I have to say that the teens did a phenomenal job. They were well prepared. The people were very very pleased and very just really, I think, kind of blown away with the young men preaching and the amount of preparation that they had done and the testimonies and everything. It was really a great service. We also got to do a good bit of sightseeing as well while we're there, and there's so much to see there. This is Muir Woods. This is the first place we went, and this is the redwood forest. So if you've heard about the redwoods in California, and so we got to see a lot of redwood trees. This is our group standing at the main entrance there. and the girls there and our entire group basically inside of a redwood tree, which was pretty cool. And there's Pastor Danny and his family as well. We did go to as I mentioned, the Golden Gate Bridge, which for me I think was probably my favorite part as far as the sightseeing stuff, because it's just the pictures don't even come close. It's really unbelievable. It's so monstrous. It's so big. We also went down Lombard Street. We drove down that, which was really cool. We got to see Alcatraz kind of up close from a distance. Nobody tried to swim across, which was good. And we did go to, as I mentioned, we went to Mount Diablo. And again, I feel silly, honestly, even putting these pictures up here, because frankly, it just doesn't even come close to capturing the beauty of the creation that we were able to see around us. This is from about 3,800 feet up. And we were able to hike. No, just kidding. We drove pretty much the entire way up. There was one very large rock face. I'll show you a picture in just a moment. But I'll tell you a story first. When we first got there, we kind of went into the visitor center. It's a long, curvy, crazy number of miles drive up this mountain. And so when we first got there, we were all just kind of gaining our bearings and looking around and seeing this beautiful sight. And so we went through the visitor center, the small visitor center at the top of the mountain there, and you can actually stand on the literal peak of the mountain, which is very cool. And we kind of came outside and realized we were missing Murph. He was not around, and so I called him. Thankfully, we had service up there, and I called him. I said, "Hey, where are you?" And he said, "Well, come and look." And here he was, up on the top of this rock face, which again does not look nearly as dangerous. It shaved years off my life. Not just Murph going up there, but he was the first one. He's probably one of the more adventurous ones of the group. But we did all climb up there, some for a very short time. Some for longer, and again, you really can't tell from here, but there's a massive several hundred feet drop on the other side of that, so it's quite heart palpitating, I guess. So we got to see some wonderful sights and do some. This was what was this called again? I forget. Rock City. This is also on Mount Diablo. It's a little further down the mountain and a little bit of a drive out. And then finally, of course, we did a vacation Bible school while we were there, and so we were able to hopefully be a blessing there. We did a lot of canvassing, and when we were canvassing, of course, for the vacation Bible school, we were also canvassing for the church, because we're giving out information, and actually the entire time we were there, we were giving out not only a vacation Bible school door hanger, but also a door hanger about their church or a postcard about their church, and just a welcome, hey, we're here, and please come check us out. And so we were able to hit a lot of houses while we were there and just putting boots on the ground and doing that. But we did have a great vacation Bible school. To be honest, they have 2 kids, and so we weren't sure we were going to have more than that, because there really wasn't any guarantees. There's no other children in the church. But the Lord blessed, and we had 6 or 7 on Wednesday. We had a 3-day VBS. We had 6 or 7 on Wednesday. We had 13 on Thursday, and we had 17 on Friday. And the Lord was very good in that. And here's a couple pictures from that. And here's that projector being used that we were able to put up while we were there. So I just thought that was so cool. Here's Murph giving his gospel presentations. Of course, just invaluable having him along and doing the presentations that he does here. And here's some craft time. We have many, many more pictures. And, of course, you can see a lot of these pictures on our Facebook and Instagram pages as well. But here's the final picture, and this is the entire group on Friday. And this picture just is great. It makes the entire trip. I mean, one of these kids is worth it. This guy, let me see, where's Augie? This guy right here in the red shirt down front, he is he's a really sharp little guy, and he's a neighbor of the Schmitz. And he came and went to the pool with us one day early in the week, and was kind of on our side the rest of the time we were there, and it really was cool. And he came every day for vacation Bible school, and there's a couple other kids there as well. Some of the other kids came from different churches and things in the area, but the Lord really blessed, and we had just a really great time. Thank you so much for your prayers. I'll come back and close in a few minutes with a few other things, but at this time we're going to go ahead and have some testimonies. So Tim, you come, and we'll start with the testimonies.
Hello, my name is Tim. Story. First of all, I just wanted to say, speaking of the Mount Diablo thing, it was me and Mr. Murphy, and like we went down there, and I wasn't gonna go on top of it, and then I see Mr. Murphy. He's like, hold my phone. I'm gonna go up there. Take a picture of me when I get up there." And I was like, "Okay." So he went up, and then I was like, "Okay, I'm coming up too." Since he's going up, it gotta be safe, right? So we followed. So this past week, I learned a lot. Well, a week and a half. There was this guy named Terry there. He was retired, but he was a very hard worker, and every day I saw him working really, really, really hard. Even though he was an older gentleman, he was in there doing the heavy work with us. You wouldn't see him like sitting around just watching people or telling people what to do or grab it. If he told somebody to do something, he would be right there next to him doing it as well, making sure they got through it just fine. There was times where Pastor Drew would say, "Hey, you, stop," and like get one of us teens to do it. But it just made me think that even though you like say that I'm young, I can still serve the Lord no matter what. And if like there's work to be done no matter what. Doesn't matter what age you are or how young you are, you can still do work for the Lord. The work is never done until you die. And 1 Corinthians 10:31, it just made me think of that verse. I think it's, "Whether therefore you eat or drink or whatsoever you do, do all to the glory of God." It just made me think of that and made me realize that my work isn't done here, and I need to do more. I need to do better at pursuing Him and glorifying Him. And another thing that a lesson that I learned was that God takes care of His children. The night that we were supposed to fly out, our flight was canceled, and so we had to wait until the next morning to fly out at 9 o'clock, and we were sitting there. I forget what time it was, but it was starting to get late, and like we're thinking, "Oh goodness, we're gonna be here all night, just sitting here on the benches." But my mom found the Lord helped us find a hotel close by, and it's just a reminder that God takes care of His children, and no matter what, He's there. Even if we did stay at the airport, He still had a plan for us to be there, and it was just a blessing that God took care of us. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Thomas Carney, and I went on this mission trip, of course, but this was my second mission trip. Last year, we actually did kind of like a similar thing. We held a vacation Bible school. Actually, last year, it was at a community center. So because it was at a community center, there was kind of like a guarantee that kids would be there. But this year was a little bit different because, like Pastor Drew had said, there were only really guaranteed about 2 kids, the pastor's kids. So that was kind of hard for me to think about. The only thing that kept going through my mind was what happens if they're the only 2 kids. And I even asked Drew, like, what would we do if it was only Pastor Danny's kids? But he said that the Lord, He has a plan. And that no matter how many kids, if it's 2 or if it's 30, we're going to pour our hearts out to them. So that was really one of the big things this week that I learned. I learned that the Lord always has a plan for us, kind of like what Tim said. The Lord always has... He always has it covered, quote unquote. Like, no matter what I might think will go wrong or something, the Lord always has a plan. And I had always kind of thought, like, yeah, the Lord has a plan, but I had never really, like, put it to use, I guess you could say. But this mission trip really helped me. It really showed me what it really meant that the Lord had a purpose. So that was the first example. And then the second one was at the airport. As soon as we walked in, it said our flight our flight was the only flight, and then it said canceled. So we were all kind of like, oh my goodness, what do we do? Like, are we just going to be stranded here for another 2 days or whatever? because of the bad weather at Dallas. But the Lord, of course, had a plan. Miss Kedron found a really good hotel for us to stay at. It was really good. So we got a lot of sleep. Like when people say Comfort Inn, I'm kind of like, eh. Like I didn't really know what to expect, but I mean I got a good night's sleep that night, more than I would have probably got on an overnight trip in an airplane. So I can thank the Lord for that. So thank you guys for your time.
Good evening. My name is Maximus Keen, and apparently I take terrible photos. Each one of those, my face was either cut off or I was making some weird grin or something. I thought it was like stalking someone or something. So this week, I wouldn't say that I learned anything really, but I was definitely reminded of a couple things. For one, to turn off the electricity when you're handling wires. Shocked myself twice. That is more practical than spiritual. I'd say what the Lord taught me was to step out of my comfort zone. And this is definitely not something new for me. I don't think it's usually new for any of us. The world is big and scary. And usually it's not anything we enjoy either. There are very few people who really enjoy stepping out of their comfort zone. I know I saw Mr. Murphy a couple times speaking to whoever he saw, trying to give them the gospel, which definitely encouraged me as well. But ever since I was a kid as well, when I was around 5 or 6 and we were at a homeschool co-op, there was this kid sitting all by himself, and my mother said, "Hey, you should go talk to him." And I thought, no, I should not. But I did it anyway because I obeyed her. And that I don't think I did much. I just went over, said hi, we looked at snails or something. And I would like to think that he was definitely encouraged by that, and that he just gained some confidence to talk to others around there. And I remember a similar story when I was in sophomore, probably. At a winter retreat that Lake Point put on. It's a school near Lake Wiley. And I was sitting with a couple of my friends who were seniors at the time, and there was someone sitting by himself at a table. And some adult that I didn't even know very well came up to me, not to any of the people around me who were older than me, and said, "Hey, you should go talk to this kid." And I thought, why are you talking to me? Please pick someone else. But I did it anyway, and I enjoyed my time. I met a new friend at the time. But we definitely used the skill during canvassing and during VBS, because we didn't know these kids at VBS, and we didn't know to the parents that we were talking to. And I think that seeing myself just blindly talking about the Lord and talking to these people, encouraging them to come to us to hear what we had to say, I'd say that definitely built courage for my life, and I think it set a reminder for what I need to do when I go to school, because right now I'm at a boarding school in Hartsville that I'm surrounded by lots of people who aren't saved, and I can see it in my dorm, in my hallway, and on the floors, everywhere I go, and I think that the Lord really reminded me and put a burden on my heart to talk more to those, even if it's just encouragement or to have a positive effect on these people's lives, to give some positivity instead of negativity from what's surrounding them. So yeah, hopefully I'll come back next year, see what Drew has to say, and thank you for your time.
Hi, I'm Sebastian Niffen. This was my first mission trip with Harvest, and I had a blast. When we went to Pier 39, San Francisco, doing the VBS, and just hang around with Pastor Danny, that was a lot of fun. I'm glad Drew was able to schedule everything. And what really hit home was while we were canvassing, I noticed that there was a lot of people that were kind of skeptical to the idea of Vacation Bible School, and the gospel in general. Because I'm really not used to that, considering I live in the Bible Belt. So, like some people, we talked to one person. He said he wasn't religious, and he asked if we were going to be imposing anything on his kids. And there was other people that just turned us off right away. Like I think it was Mrs. Story Marina. They walked up to some women, and they told them, "We're doing a VBS," and the women automatically said, "Oh, we're having a private conversation. Can you please leave?" So it's really it was kind of shocking to me, considering the need for the gospel, especially in California. But there were some people interested in VBS, and they had questions about God. And some of the kids that came to VBS, I don't know if some of them got saved or not, but I hope the seed was planted that they're able to bring that and share that with their parents and the people around them. In Luke 10:2 it says, "Therefore he said to them, the harvest truly is great, and the laborers are few. Pray ye therefore the Lord of the harvest, that he would send forth laborers into his harvest." So really it's just saying that God needs people to go to different parts, so in this example California, to minister to those people that are lost and living secular lives, and just bring them back to the light. This was really the eye-opener for me on this trip, and I'm grateful I was able to go. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kedrin. From start to finish, God was using this trip to rebuke and humble and bless me. Upon being asked multiple times if I would consider being a sponsor for the trip, my answers were not affirmatives. I was concerned about money. I was concerned about Matt taking all that vacation time to watch kids at home. But it got down to the wire, and Pastor Drew asked me to really consider it. He had just a few days, and he needed to turn in the exact names of who was traveling. And so Matt and I prayed about it, and fervently prayed about it, and then we came to the conclusion that we believed I should go. I realized quickly that the Lord wanted me to be willing, just willing. That was, I think, the key there, was that I be willing to go, and that he had the rest taken care of. Within 3 days of committing to go, my entire flight cost was paid for by two precious families in this church. Thank you for your generosity. I don't know who they are, but thank you very much. Also, the Plums and Stevens helped take care of the kids for a few of the days so that Matt could go to work and get some hours in. So God just took care of all my worries. So anyways, it all worked out. And then Matt held down the fort very well. So anyways, it's just a rebuke because I worry, and I didn't need to at all. So, and then the trip, oh my goodness, there was so much to say. I just don't even know where to begin. I could literally take up the rest of the time, but I won't. One, I think, really big thing for me, which would be very different for anyone else on the trip, was that I realized that I was being placed in a Titus 2 woman situation, in that I was the older woman. Yeah. So Jenny was, I don't know how old she is, but definitely younger than I am. And she was in great need of encouragement. One night in particular, things kind of came to a head, and I realized as I look over at her, something had occurred, and I looked over and she had a tear running down her face, and I grabbed her hand and we went into her room and sat on her bed, and the Lord just showed me that, okay, this is why I have you here, is to encourage her and to challenge her, which is really hard, but kind of to point out some things that maybe she could look at a little differently. So I'm just so thankful. The Lord's taken me through things that I was able to use that same experience to share with her, and she wanted parenting advice and marital advice, and they're interested in doing foster care and all kinds of things that the Lord already had. I'm right in the middle of parenting and marriage and all this stuff, and I've been through things that I could then just share some wisdom with her. But the Lord had to bring me through stuff, to be able to be in that place. Proverbs 25:11 just kept coming to mind. A word fitly spoken is like apples of gold and settings of silver. And the Lord just gave the words. I'm just so thankful because I needed to be ready with an answer right then. And he gave me the words. So that was a blessing, but it also was a new realization for me that, wow, I'm maybe in a different time of life. I'm the older woman here. So then the couple that we stayed with, the Perezes, their names were Tony and Letty Perez. Oh my goodness, they were so sweet to open their home to Marina, Romy, and I. We were spoiled rotten, were we not? Almost every morning they made us a Filipino-style breakfast. And I wish I had a picture that y'all could see, but I mean, even the rice concoction that they made, they packed it in a bowl and then put it on top of our plate, and we had carrots sticking out. They just did a beautiful job in decorating the plate and everything. It was amazing. But they not only opened their home to us, they also had a couple there that was staying with them, living with them, that I believe was a childhood friend of Mr. Tony's. And that couple was going through a difficult time in life, and so they had opened their home to them as well. Just beautiful example of hospitality and just giving of themselves, and really didn't want any, they didn't want appreciate, us to say thank you even, but they just were very humble in that. Let me see. VBS, what was interesting to me about this was a lot of times when we did tons of canvassing, tons of canvassing, and I knew going into this, the Lord's going to bless this. And we had one child that did come because of a result of canvassing out of those 17 that came. And then one child, I wanted to say, both of them, by the way, were named Elijah, which is interesting. But anyways, one Elijah came because of canvassing, and one came because his mom had an appointment at maybe a government type agency that was going to give her child clothing to help her with a need. And she thought she was in the right place for that appointment, but she came to church. And so, which, anyways, long story. But she comes in, and we quickly realized she's not where she's supposed to be. And so we still went on and explained that we were doing VBS and that we'd love for them to come back, check out the church, whatever. And that she went to that appointment quickly and got right back and came with her son to the VBS and hung out. And I can't help but think the Lord had a divine appointment for her to come to the wrong place to hear the right thing. So that was pretty cool. One more thing. Where is it? I think the biggest blessing on this trip was just being able to give of our time, of our abilities, even monies. We used some of the grocery budget money to leave some things at the church that were needed. We were able to leave a lot of prepared meals there for the family, for the Schmitz, that I know was going to be helpful. Jenny has quite a few health issues, and I think it was helpful for her to be able to freeze up what we didn't eat and bring out later for meals. We were able to leave some kitchen supplies that were needed, just be able to buy those things and leave there for the church. Little things like that. I think it was just a blessing. From all those extensive projects that we were able to get done we babysat for them so they could go on a much-needed date night. That was such a blessing to be able to do. And like I said, just little things that we were able to do is such a blessing. Acts 20:35, it's more blessed to give than to receive. And that couldn't have been more evident in this trip. So anyways, thank you for letting us go. It was just an awesome experience. Anyone who hasn't been on a missions trip, it's kind of its own little lessons to be learned. You don't really learn some of these lessons unless you're on a missions trip. So I just encourage you to go if you ever have that opportunity. Thank you.
We'll give you a chance to praise God for what he did. We're going to sing His Name is Wonderful, just one song before an offering. So let's stand together as we sing 258 if you need the words. 258, His Name is Wonderful, and then we'll have our offering right after this. His name is wonderful, His name is wonderful, His name is wonderful, Jesus my Lord. He is the mighty King, Master of everything. His name is wonderful, Jesus my Lord. He's the great shepherd, the rock of all ages, Almighty God is He. Bow down before Him, love and adore Him. His name is wonderful, Jesus my Lord.
Thank you, Eric, and we'll have a few more testimonies after the offering, but at this time we'll ask Zeke to pray for our offering, and then we'll take it. Zeke.
Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you for tonight, Lord. I thank you for all the youth that went on this mission trip, Lord, to California. Lord, I pray that that church would be blessed no matter what they go through this time of the year, Lord. I pray for this offering, Lord, that you refer your kingdom, Lord, and that the gospel would go out with power around this world, Lord. In your name I pray. Amen.
And I might be up here a little bit longer because unfortunately Romy wasn't able to make it tonight, so I'll be reading her testimony after. But this was my very first mission trip, and it was a really, really cool experience. I think one of the biggest things I was reminded of is to check my attitude about things. There are several instances where I had to remind myself to respond right. For example, Sebastian kind of stole my thunder, but we were out canvassing. Miss Kedron and I went up to a group of ladies, and they stopped talking, and Miss Kedron politely said that we were having a church event for their kids, and one of the ladies cut her off and was like, "We are having a private conversation." And that was like, excuse me. And so that was kind of hard to deal with. Just, it wasn't horribly rude, but sort of was. So just knowing how to respond to that, we actually ended up making a joke about it by the end of the week, you know, when someone would want to add something and someone else was having a conversation, we'd be like, excuse me, I'm having a private conversation here. But we did end up, I feel like, having a right attitude toward that. Something else that I struggled with my attitude was VBS, because we did canvas a lot. Like, we didn't wear any other t-shirts other than our VBS shirts because we were canvassing a lot. And so, you know, after all that canvassing and talking to people at parks, I guess I was really boosted up. And we talked a lot, Mr. Schmidt and then Pastor Drew, about, you know, 2 kids or 20 is the same, but I still think I built up a really high expectation because, like, so many people prayed for this and we did so much work for this, so surely, you know, it's gonna be so many kids. And as Pastor Drew, I think it was, said, you know, we had 6 kids the first day. So that was 3 kids in my class, and which was a bit hard. But God, you know, he knew what was going on. He had been listening to us, and he blessed what we had been working for. And like Pastor Drew said, we had 13 kids and then 17, and it was just really cool to see what God was doing. But it was a reminder to be checking my attitude, and it doesn't really matter the circumstance. What I should be staying the same. And then workday was another example. Like Romy and I were painting the stairwell that Pastor Drew was talking about, and it was above stairs, and we had to paint the roof too. And there were a lot of things that, you know, my neck hurts and my back hurts from looking at the roof, and I accidentally got paint in my eye because I was looking at the roof and trying to paint at the same time. And so splinters in my hands, but having the right attitude, you know, you're able to get more done, I feel like, and be a bigger blessing because your attitude affects the people around you and how you're able to be used. And then another big one was, of course, you know, when we got to the airport and our flight was canceled, and it was encouraging to be around people who were staying positive about that. And I just want to thank the people on the team that did have a positive attitude about that, because it was really encouraging. Because, you know, when your plans go awry, it can be kind of scary. But I definitely think that having the right attitude about different things, having a servant's attitude, you can be really used by God for that, and that is definitely something I took away from the trip. That's the end of my testimony. So thank you for listening to that. This is Romy's. She says, "Hi, I'm Romeo Nessie, and this is my 3rd missions trip with Harvest. They have been a tremendous blessing in my life in different ways, but I'm extremely thankful for each opportunity and the ability to go on each one. I loved getting to know the Schmidts and serving with them and the people we stayed with. People we stayed with fixed us breakfast each morning, and they made us feel so at home. Mission trips are truly amazing experiences. One of my favorite things from this trip was getting to talk to Miss Story and Marina. Anytime we had time, long car rides, getting ready in the mornings, or even time at night, it was awesome to get to hear from them and get to know them better. It was such a blessing to me. Something I really took away from this trip was how lucky we are to have so many people in our church, not just willing to serve, but to come to church every Sunday and be there to fellowship with each other. During VBS the first day, we had 6 kids. It was really eye-opening to see how blessed we are to only have so many kids at our VBS. Not only have so many kids at our VBS, but also on Sundays too. There are 2 kids at the church, the pastor's kids. To be able to play with them and be silly was an awesome thing to be able to do. It felt so good to be able to go and bless them, have fun with them, and spoil them. But a prayer for them is for a family or 2 to come to the church with kids, and also that seeds were planted into the hearts of kids and even their parents. I am very thankful to have gone on this trip, so thank you so much to the sponsors for putting up with us all, and to all the people who made it possible for us to go, and for all the prayers while we were gone. And thank you, Ms. Ketron, for cooking for us. Thank you.
My name's Christopher Dabbs, and that's loud. And this was my first mission trip with Harvest, and I have to say it was really fun. And I had a lot of fun, and I hope Drew had a lot of fun with me being there, and if not, I'm sorry. But anyway, one of the things I learned is to listen better, because, sometimes I hear something, and then it just kind of goes out the other ear, like a lot of times. And so I know there were times on the trip where I didn't listen better, like I should have, and I know that stressed out Drew and all of them. And one particular time we were canvassing, and it was Max, Tim, Sebastian, Mr. Murphy, and I. And so we had our two little groups, and then Mr. Murphy was like the Lone Ranger. And so it was Max and Tim and Sebastian and I. And we were going down this block, and we were kind of doing it, weaving in and out, like from block to block, and we were going to meet up in the middle. Well, Mr. Murphy at one point told us to head in the direction of the church, but we were supposed to still do the weaving in and out. But I kind of forgot about that and didn't really think we were supposed to do that. And so Sebastian and I, we start walking. We're walking down. We're canvassing everything, even the abandoned buildings. And, hey, some of those got removed, so somebody saw them. And anyway, we were walking down, and we made it to the church, and it was just us, and nobody was there. And so we were like, okay. So we went up, and we kept canvassing every house we saw. And we came back, and Mr. Murphy, Tim, and Max had made it back, and they're like, we've been looking for you guys for 30 minutes. And we're like, oh, okay. And he was like, we had told y'all to do the weaving in and out thingy. And we're like, oh. And so that just kind of showed me that I need to listen better when people give instructions and not just hear the first word and just kind of pew, or actually listen to what they say and not just have it fly through my head and just not even hear what they say. So that's what I got. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Murph. I had quite a bit here I wrote down, but I'm going to cut it down to just one thing. One of the places we went to was the Jelly Belly factory. It was kind of neat. It's an organization that really got famous when I think Ronald Reagan said, "I like Jelly Belly jelly beans," or whatever. And the company took off. We had a nice tour through the factory, and there was a store at the end, and everyone was getting their very expensive Jelly Belly jelly beans. And I saw this little section that said jelly flops. And I guess these are jelly beans that didn't quite measure up. Sometimes they're two together, or they're basically rejects, but taste just as good. And instead of $10 a pound, they were $6 a pound, or $3 a pound, actually. And so I got me 5 bags. Didn't think about how I was going to get them home. Actually, when we went through the airport, my suitcase got pulled over because of Jelly Belly jelly beans. But anyway, the rejects. Somehow they were able to make their rejects profitable. And it kind of made me think of 1 Corinthians chapter 1. We had several things that we did around the church, and one of those was the bathroom project. And it's kind of neat to see young men, including myself, get the opportunity to swing a sledgehammer at some brick walls and see what happens. Luckily, we had 2 instructors. We had Mr. Terry, like he said, and Matt, because we were ready to go. But they made sure we had glasses, and we were instructed about the breathing and all that kind of stuff. But the verse that I thought about was, "For you know your calling, brethren, that not many wise men after the flesh, not many mighty," and that's what our group was. We weren't very wise and we weren't very mighty. But, you know, every project, and Drew will attest to this, every project that we gave the group to do, they exceeded our expectations. Whether it was the building projects or blessing the family or VBS, it was just an amazing trip. I want you to know that Drew is really good at connecting with the youth. He did sharks and minnows in the pool. He did some other game called Categories. I don't know what that was. He put some awful things in his mouth in a game called Bean Boozled. He risked his life on the monkey bars playing lava tag, and he has the bruises to prove it. Pray for Pastor Danny. He works, and we attest to this, every morning at 2:30 in the morning. He teaches English to Chinese people using a laptop, and he's very enthusiastic about it, very loud, I would guess I would say. And so I kind of woke up to that quite a bit during the week. But 5 hours from 2:30 to 7, he does every day, half-hour classes to support him because he can't be supported by the church completely. So pray for that. I know that would be a big blessing for that family, and also the younger people at the church would be a big blessing. The hero of the trip is Miss Story in my mind. We were well cared for and well fed. I recommend her creamy Italian chicken dinner. Get her recipe. Thank you.
Well, I trust that's a blessing to you. As I sit here, I'm just so thankful that we do it this way because there are a million things that come to mind as I sit here that I want to tell you, and we just don't have time. But a million blessings, and I'll just share one thing, and it's not my bruise. I'm not going to show you my bruise from the monkey bar accident. Or whatever it was. I was up on a roof of the playground. But anyway, so Friday morning, I got up and we were getting ready and things, and I got my Bible out, and I don't subscribe to this usually, but my Bible fell open to Isaiah chapter 55. And again, I generally turn to wherever I'm reading and things, and I select a passage. I don't just usually open my Bible, and I was probably heading somewhere, but I realized that I had opened it to a verse that I had underlined before, and it was a good verse, and so I read it. And I immediately regretted reading it because it says, Isaiah 55 verses 8 and 9 says, "My thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, saith the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts." And as I read that, I thought, oh no, what's about to happen? And I was able to share that with the team Friday night in the airport, as many of them have mentioned. When we walked in, and immediately were greeted by the American Airlines sign that said that our flight was canceled. And we had I highly recommend the folks at American Airlines. They did a great job in helping us. It was out of their control, but the Lord was in it. And God was good, and we didn't get stranded. And you could say that for the whole trip. My thoughts were different for the trip going in. The trip never goes the way you plan it. It never fits the mold exactly the way you think it's going to. And certainly, and I would say that was probably the worst thing, that aside from my accident. No, I'm just kidding. It really was not that big of a deal, okay? But that was probably the biggest thing that happened, really, with the whole trip, was our flight being canceled. And praise God. Because if that's the worst thing that happens on a trip and really I could give the same testimony every year when we get back. I mean, you take 10 people or 15 people or however many people you take on a trip like this across the country for 11 days. As the leader of the trip, there's a lot of moments where you think, what could happen? And you get to the end of a trip and you realize, God is so good. He protects, He provides, He sustains, he works things out in ways that are so much better than the way that we thought they would be, because we thought we had it planned out in our mind in a certain way, and it didn't go that way, but it was better. And so it was it's a great blessing for us to be able to go. I'm very thankful for the opportunity to go every year. I'm thankful for each of these team members, and I'll echo what Murph said, that these teens exceeded our expectations in every way this week. To be honest, when we first got there, I think they weren't really sure about us. You know, you come in, you walk in with 7 teenagers and 3 sponsors, and you know, that's a lot of manpower, and I knew that, but I don't know that they realized that. But these teens worked hard, so let them get some rest. Parents, try to let them sleep a little bit. But the Lord was good, and ultimately, if you come away with nothing else from this tonight, God is good. Pastor Danny gave a phenomenal challenge to the teens on Friday night regarding just giving your life for Christ in whatever way, whatever that looks like. Friday afternoon, he shared with us just, you know, it's not going to look the same for everybody. Everybody's going to have a different calling, but make your life count for Christ. You know, there are tremendous needs out in California. There are tremendous needs all across this country, and Pastor Danny and I talked at length about that this week. That you know, there are thousands of churches across this country where the pastor would give their right arm to have one young couple come, one young family come, and plug into a ministry and commit to that ministry. And it could be that the Lord would have someone even in this church, someone who's perhaps older, or perhaps a young couple, perhaps someone who doesn't have kids, perhaps you have kids. And the Lord would have you, even just kind of to get your mind going from a trip like this, or perhaps one of these young people, that the Lord would have to go out there and to give their lives, to pour into a church, to pour into a ministry. Why wouldn't you want to do that? Why wouldn't you want to take an opportunity like that to make a difference for Christ in a place where the need is so great? And the needs are great here, and it's not to take anything away from being here, certainly, but that was a tremendous challenge that he gave us, and he wasn't trying to get anybody to come out there, but just to make your life count for the cause of Christ. We're over time, so we're going to go ahead and stand, and we'll be dismissed when we won't sing our final song. But let's stand, and we'll close in prayer. I will ask the team if you all would go out to the lobby. That way folks can greet you on your way out. That would be great. That way you can all hear more stories from them. There are many, many more that we could tell, but time just doesn't allow. Brother Tim Perry, if you wouldn't mind, would you close our service in prayer this evening, sir?